rid of being taken for granted in your relationship. After watching this video, you're going to learn two things. Number one thing is that you're going to learn what it looks like in a relationship, in your relationship, to be taken for granted, to feel taken for granted as a result. Number two thing that's going to occur is that you'll never see your relationship the same ever again. You'll never see your interactions with your beloved the same again. So when you're ready, say, I'm ready. Number one thing we have to recognize is why does it occur? Why do people take people for granted in a relationship? I want you to look at it in this way. The premise of conventional relationship, convention means what's socially accepted, what's commonly accepted, what's commonly held as true. What's convention in relationships, because it's conventional relationships, is that you grant yourself to the other person in exchange for their granting themselves to you exclusively. You understand? And what eventually occurs, the inevitable outcome, of course, is that you both take each other for granted. What is the inevitable outcome of each person in the relationship taking the other for granted? Very simple. You both eventually feel taken for granted. This is the reason why in relationships they say, oh, communication is incredibly important in a relationship. There's a lot more important things in communication. Communication is pretty important, pretty up there in importance, but the very fundamental of relationships is causing all of the communication problems is that each person takes each other for granted and begins the deterioration of that relationship. I want you to remember this always. The death knell of every loving relationship. Do you know what it is? The signal the relationship is beginning its spiral toward its death is being and therefore feeling taken for granted. Do you understand? Now in relationships where it's arranged, they presume they're going to have problems, they presume they're going to take each other for granted, because that relationship is not fundamentally based on love as a premise. But when a relationship is, or if it's like a business relationship, it's a business sexual relationship, or it's a relationship based, it's arranged because you're growing the powers of the families, whatever the case is. But if it's a relationship based fundamentally on love, being and therefore feeling taken for granted is the death of that relationship. So how do you get rid of it? I want you to first note for yourself, this is if you're interested in bettering your relationship. This is if you're interested in getting rid of that sensation, being and feeling taken for granted in the relationship. Some people, surprisingly, you might surprise you, but overwhelmingly, people would rather have relationships where their partner is granted to them. For the people that are more independent, this won't make sense. But I want you to remember, most people would rather be vice president of Magna Carta company making billions of dollars a year than CEO of a fledgling company with no employees and no income. Do you understand? So, if you're interested in getting rid of being and feeling taken for granted, this is what you must do. This is what you must recognize. And I'll show you how you can facilitate a relationship where you don't feel taken for granted, where the relationship is fundamentally based on love, and it's a loving, genuine loving relationship. But if you're a person who is interested in your partner being granted to you, being presumed to be given and granted to you, their attention is granted to you, their being, their living is granted to you, this video is not for you. But I want you to pay attention nonetheless and see what you can learn. So, it begins with this. You must base, first of all, 3 things. Number 1, you must base your relationship on the 3 things that I teach. You must base it on unconditional love. Unconditional love being your genuine wanting for your beloved's happiness intrinsically to your happiness. The same happiness you want for yourself, you want that for them. Whatever actualizes them, whether or not you're involved, and whether or not it's in the same bed. You understand? Number 2 is non-judgmental acceptance. You accept them and you facilitate their being themselves, so that they may never have to pretend to be someone else in front of you. They can be themselves. The reason why people work so hard in relationships is because they have to pretend to be someone they're not. They pretend to be the person that their partner imagines they want them to be. Actually, it's what they imagine their partner wants them to be. Number 3 thing is open communication. You're facilitating us in your relationship open communication because there's no reason to hide anything. Because you're non-judgmentally accepting and because you want for their happiness, why is there any reason for them to pretend to be someone they're not? To hide anything? There is no reason. This is the fundamental aspect of open communication. In fact, open relationship is not open legs or open zipper or open doorknob. It's open communication. Your ability, because why wouldn't you have open communication? This is the openness in open relationships. Number 2 thing. You must facilitate a relationship where partners have no obligation to be in that relationship outside of their commitments that they make. There is no presumed obligations at the outset of that relationship. The only thing that occurs in that relationship is merit. The only reason you're interfacing with each other is because you want to and like to and desire to. Because you like that person, you want to be there, you enjoy them, you love them, you want for their happiness, well-being, and actualization. That is the premise. That is the only reason you're there. Eventually, in a relationship with people, with entities, you make commitments. Oh, I'll be here tomorrow. You can rely on me. Oh, hey, honey, I'm going to wash the dishes today. Don't worry about it. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you clean up after me? Or if you can't, I'll come home later after work and I'll do it myself. No worries. These are what? These are commitments. Either it's a short-term commitment, a small commitment, or a large commitment. Hey, honey, what do you think about buying a house together? Living together? How about we particulate our income so that we can allocate towards the mortgage? This is a big commitment. This is a long-term commitment. No one in the relationship is obligated to be there outside of the commitments that they make in the relationship. There's no presumed obligations. Presumed obligations for most people looks like this. I'll never sleep with anybody else so long as you don't sleep with anybody else. Oh, hey, why are you flirting with that guy? I thought you loved me. What is the presumed obligation? The presumed obligation is that their property. Understand? It's heinous, I know. Number 3 thing. Never be in the relationship because you... Oh, that's my timer. No one in the relationship must be there because they have to be. If any parties in the relationship are there because they feel they have to, they might as well be encouraged to pursue other endeavors. We'll talk more about this in other videos. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.